This is KCBD News Channel 11 at 6.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Christy is in for Karen, who is off tonight.
Forensic specialists testified today during the sentencing phase of the trial against a Lubbock man who recruited 4 of his friends to beat up and rob his own step-grandfather in 2019. Felix Alonzo pleaded guilty to the robbery that killed 67-year-old Larry Favre earlier this week.
KCBD News Channel 11's Natalie Falkenberry joins us from the Lubbock County Courthouse with today's testimony from the medical examiner. Natalie?
Well, Christine Abner, as trial resumed this morning, the jurors heard testimony from the medical examiner in this case who shared photos of the victim's body. Now, as those photos were being shared, multiple jurors actually turned away. Now, I can't detail to you what those photos looked like because they weren't shared with us in the gallery, just for those jurors out of respect for Favre's family. However, the medical examiner did describe the photos, stating that Favre's aorta was tore apart by the gunshot he sustained during that robbery. The state then called an LPD officer that works in the forensic unit. She testified that she located multiple pieces of evidence when she arrived. Some of that evidence included bolt cutters, boots, and a gun. The jury then heard testimony from the forensic scientist who performed DNA analysis on that evidence. The witness stated that the bolt cutters and the gun found both had the defendant's DNA on them. Now, during cross-examination, the defense shared photos of a police officer handling that gun on scene without gloves on, arguing that the evidence was mishandled and that the state cannot prove how or when his client's DNA was transferred to those firearms. Now, court has recessed for the day and it will resume Monday morning, and we'll continue our coverage then. Reporting from the Lubbock County Courthouse, Natalie Falkenberry, KCBD News Channel 11. Christy and Abner.
Thank you, Natalie.